Hey Dominic, how's it going? Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you for having me, guys.
Oh yeah, this will be lots of fun. Yeah, I
Probably,
loved
yes.
your book. I narrated your book, so it's not quite fresh in my mind like it was a couple months ago, but
hmm
yeah, looking forward to chatting about it. I really did enjoy it. It's let me just say what the title is. It's Zinfaendel, The Mystic's Path of Self-Knowledge, and yeah, it's a good
You
book.
got
So
it.
looking forward to
You got
chatting.
the pronunciation perfectly.
Oh, I hope so. Probably said it about 50 times.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear about your synchronicities. We didn't really hear about. I listened to your Aeon Byte interview. Shout out to Miguel and them at Aeon Byte. It was great, but you guys kind of skipped over that part. And since Darren is still the one of the Canada's synchronicity rating, what are you called again, Darren? Rating master or something or
oh,
Authority.
authority? He's
Authority.
a
oh,
authority, but
wow.
Get it right.
he's a hard authority. I mean, like you almost have to donate to the show to get like synchronicity, but
Pressure's on.
pressure's on. But I mean, you guys skipped over that, and I know it because I think it's the one you told me about personally when we talked. But I'd love to start off with that, like just give people a taste of like some of your path towards like, from kind of like the new age sort of stuff that you were in and into to writing your book and some of the synchronicities that happened along the way.
Well, I wonder if it's kind of two different stories. I mean, especially the synchronicity stuff, because over the years, my relationship with the subject really evolved, and it's kind of a long thing. So I don't know if you
Yeah.
prefer that I just go right into that, or
No,
if I tell
you can
people
take
about my story a
you
bit.
can take the long way if you want.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So, well, I mean, where to start? I'm guessing you're referring to the one in the book, actually.
Yeah, but there's
'Cause-
also another one that you didn't I think there's another one that you didn't talk about. Um
really?
yeah, but let's talk about the one in the book, I guess. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I mean, there's a chapter in the book which is about synchronicity, but not just what they are, or actually I don't really get into that. It's more like, what do you do with them? What do they mean? And it's my personal reflection and my grappling with what happens when under the hood, um, well, the one I talked about in the book is kind of suggested more than very well defined. It's kind of brought in a more poetic way, because it was more important for me to get people to get the feeling of how crazy that was for me, rather than just trying to evaluate if it's yeah, that's a good one or not,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's pretty wild. um so I've always had a lot of them, but that one was pretty crazy. So I was working at in a warehouse, that was probably when I started listening to you guys, during doing my really boring job. Um,
Like driving
and
a forklift or something.
no, even more boring than that, because driving a forklift is kind of fun. No, it's just like packing orders for a web store. So just
Well,
taping boxes and getting products and putting them,
at least you
So
can
after a
listen.
while, it
Yeah.
gets,
Yeah.
sorry?
At least you can listen to stuff during that. I mean,
Exactly. Yeah. Like I had my ways of working that it was so automatic that I could concentrate on other things. So one night I was listening. It's pretty funny because I was telling you, I think we were just talking, you and I, and I told you that a lot of my spiritual expansion, I guess, came from UFOs. And at the time, I was still pretty new to the subject, and I listened to a bit of Gaia, Gaia TV.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's okay. But still, like, there was an interview with a guy, like, who's doing so-called alchemy. And it's so weird to get into that right now. So yeah, so I listened to the guy, and he's talking about some kind of meditations on a rose. Like, you see a rose, like, at first in your heart and something like that. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm still okay. I have to tell you that part. I was working it's a tea store, actually, so I was packing tea in tea bags. So I'm just working, and then I'm like, oh, I'm packing a rose tea, tea with rose petals in it. So I'm like, oh, that's funny. So the interview goes on, and he mentions roses again, another kind of meditation with roses around you and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, okay. And right at that moment, I'm like, dude, I'm filling the second order was another bag of rose tea, So I finish that order, and I start the next one, and I'm like, okay, for sure there's going to be rose tea in there. Well, not only there was rose tea in there again for the third consecutive order, but the name of the client's last name was Rose, and not even like in Quebec, because I'm in Montreal for people who don't know. La Rose is a common name, but it wasn't even La Rose. It was just Rose, like, straight to it. So, but I was at a time in my life when I had so many crazy synchronicities like that, and it was kind of driving me wild, because I did at the time. You always hear, oh, that's a message, or that's a sign for something. And to me, like, it wasn't clear at all. Like, that synchronicity was so wild that I'm like, what am I supposed to understand from that, And or some people say, oh, it means you're expanding or something like that.
On the right path.
Yeah, on the right path. If it was the right path
how many types of tea are we talking in this tea factory? How many types of tea are you working with?
About 200.
Okay, so this is something. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, you're calculating there.
I'm slowly evaluating, What are the top 10 teas? Is Rose in the top 10? Or is it pretty
No, well, to be honest,
yeah.
it's not top 10 though. But I mean, I've worked at that warehouse for about 3 years, and to get 3 in a row is, especially, I mean, 3 in a row with the guy's name, and then the meditations and stuff like that. So that was pretty crazy. It all happened in the span of about like 5 minutes. So that's another crazy thing, like, it wasn't like over an hour, So so I was alone at the warehouse. I was the first to do the night shifts there, so I was alone in the whole place, and I just dropped to my knees, and I yelled, like, what do you want? Like, what is it you're trying to tell me? I don't understand. Should I become, like, should I grow roses? Like, what am I supposed to do with that? So, but that was, at that time, it freaked me out, and I didn't, I got time to reflect on all these kind of things since then, and I took the time to write actually a book to kind of sift through all the my experiences and try to figure out what's important in all of that. You know, how does it affect me? Figure out like what's the, I mean, ontologically, what are the implications of a synchronicity? But then it kind of blew up, and I thought maybe my next book could be on that subject actually, because
Wow.
yeah.
Did you look up the meaning of rose afterwards, or did you trying to find any esoteric meaning of the rose that's already written down, or did anything about roses come up afterwards at all?
Yeah. I mean, even my girlfriend at the time had 3 roses tattooed, or 2 roses tattooed on her, and there was a room. I had a very crazy experience once with a picture on the wall of a rose that she put there. You know, those old how do you call them?
The magic eye ones? No.
No, the old drawings, like botanical
Okay. Yeah.
drawings.
Yeah.
So there was one. Anyway, so that's another story. But yeah, I mean, the rose has been there a lot. I did also a sacred geometry course many years ago. Well, I learned afterwards that it wasn't really with Randall Carlson, but kind of. It was him, but anyways. And in there, he was.
His buddy Cameron, was it the Cameron course over at Sacred Geometry International?
Exactly. Yeah. I didn't.
Good. I mean, it's still Randall's teachings at the end of the day.
It is, I guess. Yeah. I mean, I liked it. I'm not sure if I should say anything about that, but the course, it was cool. I liked it, and he did talk about the rose and the lily. So yeah, I mean, for some, there isn't that much I can say about roses. It's just they're there, you know. Oh, actually, I should say that there's a poem by Rumi, the Sufi poet, that basically changed my life. Actually, not even the whole poem, just like 2 sentences, you know. And it's in the book actually, and it's about a rose.
Can you read it or say it?
I can just from memory try to.
Put you on the spot or anything.
I'm sorry.
Not to put you on the spot or anything.
Well, fortunately, it's just like basically 1 sentence, so it's something like the voice that told the rose to bloom spoke to me right in my chest, right in my heart, you know. And to me, that was wow. We're getting right in the deep.
That's okay. That's
stuff.
Yeah, that's
To me, that was really life-changing, because part of why I wrote the book was also to figure out for myself something that seems impossible, but try to find a moral ground for manifesting in the world. You know, I'm kind of by nature, I'm kind of a non-dualist. So, and also I practiced Zen for some years. And it's very easy for non-dualists to fall into the trap of nihilism. So, because, you know, like if you kind of step out of reality and you just see things in a completely relative way, and you step outside of time, you see that whatever seems good now in some years will mean bad things are going to happen, but also good things, and just how every action just ripples through time, good, bad, good, bad. So how do you act? How do you decide something if you spend too much time in that space where in the void, so it was really hard for me to just be a person, like make decisions and have projects and work on things that I want to do, because I couldn't really grasp if it's a good thing, or that's the best thing to do, or that's the worst. So
give us an example about manifesting, like moral concerns during manifesting, like because you don't want to be kind of materialistic or manifesting something, because there is kind of a view from the older spiritualists, I think, and the theosophists, even, or the older occultists, that's kind of a black magic type thing, right? I mean, you're trying to manifest something that's it's you're trying to use those forces for yourself.
Exactly, yeah. And who am I to say that the impact I'm going to have is going to be the right one, And it seems a bit wild, but to me, like, it's something that stopped me in my tracks eventually, all the time. Like, I would start working on a music project, or trying to create myself a new job, because I've almost always been a freelance, doing freelance web design or whatever. And then working at it, and after a short while, I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, is it really what I want to do? And I know so many people struggle with that. I mean, and it's kind of it doesn't happen that often also that we hear people talk about this on platforms like yours, because usually the people who are indecisive, they don't write books, they don't, they can't reach the end. So usually we don't see those people. So to me, I thought, if I managed to write that book and I get it, well, I published it myself, but it means that I understood how to manifest aimlessly. It's kind of it's very paradoxical. And so, to get back to the rose and that Rumi poem, that voice that voice that says to the rose to bloom, it became an obsession. I wanted to hear that voice, because the rose, or whatever, the trees, or they just do the things, they don't, unless I'm mistaken, I don't think they really ponder, and when it's time to grow, they grow, and when it's time to die, they die, and there's no emotions necessarily, or egoic programming coming into that,
So who were you worried about were you concerned about manifesting? Like, if you did the wrong thing, was it your future, your deeper karmic sort of thing, or was it more about that you might, hurt other people, or it just wasn't the right path? Like, you were kind of stuck doing the right thing, like the best thing for you at that time, or what?
Mm-hmm.
What was your concern?
Actually, it's more complex and more simple than that. It's basically just, after a while, I'm not feeling it, So whatever you're doing, whatever project you're working at, or there has to be like a fire there, like some type of passion, or kind of an ideal.
Yeah, there has to be a desire, and if so, you don't want to get all in manifest mode, and then be dropping, and then not have the desire, and then
Actually, I couldn't. I wasn't able to. I tried a lot, because it's yeah, it's been a strange road. Like I after a while in my UFO quest, I discovered Richard Dolan, and then he had that interview with Gordon White, and I'm like, oh, okay, like there's now it's getting interesting, you know, because it gets to well, the impression I had is magic was the next step for me after UFOs, you know, because for me, like it might be a genetic thing. I'm more of a interdimensional hypothesis guy, like kind of a Vallee, you know. Um, so I thought those entities and what they're similar to, the people who are maybe more experienced in contacting them, and you know, like to understand what's behind the curtain, what's moving back there, you know. Well, it would be magicians, you know. And to me, it all connects, even with manifestation and just how ideas live. And could an entity be just an idea? We have this notion of egregores, but like, how does we know so little of volition and having a like an intention, and how does that work? Like, do aliens have intentions, and or are they just intention and they just move like a wave? They don't think, or
More
like,
like
or
instinctual.
ghosts, or ideas, even ideas. Like, what's the difference between a ghost and an idea? We don't know that.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly where I was going. Oh, well, yeah, Gordon White. So I got into magic, but at first I was more interested in just what are they doing, you know, like what are the different kinds of magic. Also, I had a roommate who was into that stuff, and it was so funny because he listened to Gordon White a lot, to Rune Soup a lot, and it seemed very obscure to me at the time. And when he moved out, like, I discovered Gordon White. Um, so I subscribed to the, you know, like I was a premium member, and I tried doing the exercises and the courses, and it was always the same. Like that thought, like that fire would just die, you know, like, what am I trying to manifest? Why would that? Also, like, all the bad things that I've gone through in my life, they teach me so much. I mean, I don't want to put that aside. I don't want to I don't want to
Shortcut in a way or something.
I'm sorry.
You don't want to take that shortcut in a way.
Yeah, and also like that uh, that attitude of just trying to get away from the bad and go towards what you consider good. Like, eventually, it got very clear that in my mind that it's all programming and it's all automatic. And so, to me, I guess that short stint, is that a word? I think
Yep.
so.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, in magic, it was really interesting because it taught me a lot about yeah, intention, volition. How come for me, like, it doesn't work? Like, there was a wealth course or something like that, and I was doing it at the same time as he was doing giving the courses. And yeah, like, it had this, like, this concept. Mitch Horowitz also talks about that a lot. Like, and I mean, new thought, and you know, like, just focus on something, like you see it like it's already happened. How come for me, like, it always fades away? like pretty quickly. Like I can't hold that. And for years, I thought there's a problem with you. Like there's a problem with um, motivation and maybe self-worth, or maybe you think you're not worth getting those things or becoming someone important or making the money or something like that. But I couldn't. I mean, what do you want me to do with that? Like, okay, well, I'm broken. So to me, to write the book was also to explore another way of seeing all this, and yeah, basically because I saw around me, like, I mean, trees don't know who Napoleon Hill is, and they still grow. Some of them are 1,000 years old, you know. So that's my model, you know. That's my model. So, and I mean, sorry if I'm rambling a little, but yeah, I basically just trained myself to not really listen to learn to listen to that voice, to the voice that speaks to the rose, but actually listen to the voices that I know that it's not that, you know.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about your book seems to fit in with a little bit with some new thought principles, you know, because I'm reading this book from Charles Hennell called The Master Key System.
Okay.
I don't know if you're aware of it, but it's really focusing on your thoughts and all these practices to focus your thoughts. I think it came before Think and Grow Rich a little bit. It's just Think and Grow Rich in my my book, the bookshelf picture there behind me. And he's really focused on the inner world, your inner, the world within, right? The world within is so important because it creates your subconscious mind, and the world within creates that world without. And so much of that seems to me like also practicing self-knowledge. Like the path to self-knowledge seems like it would go through that, you know, world within, or vice versa. I don't know which one would come first, but they're connected, you know? So much of what helped me out in my early sort of like recovery program was mindfulness meditations, where I kind of disconnected from my thoughts. You know, I'm like, I realize that awareness is not my thoughts, you know. So thoughts play such an important role in all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the other thing I wanted to ask you about, I kind of have an overarching new thought kind of question. New thought for this age we're in, but I also wanted to, what I was thinking of was suffering. Like I think what you were gonna say or trying to say as well when you went through all that Gordon White stuff is like there's kind of no shortcut to not suffering. I mean, there's always going to be some suffering. You know, this is just human life, human living.
Yeah. Actually, I even make a distinction between pain and suffering, because so I associate suffering with friction, and it's friction in the sense of things not going perfectly in a fluid manner, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
You know, so I remember someone well, I mentioned Brad. No, actually, Miguel mentioned Brad Warner in my invite interview. I don't know if you know him. Brad Warner is basically a Zen monk, you know, who used to play in a hardcore punk band. So I feel like we have kind of similar backgrounds, and I enjoy listening to him. And he was telling this story about a Zen master taking a little stick. I'm going to butcher this story, but you're going to get it. And he said basically that just by putting the stick on the ground, the stick suffers, and the earth suffers, the ground suffers, you know. That was also pretty mind-blowing. Like I could just, you know, blow it off and just say, well, that guy's crazy. But how could that be true, you know? Because it's suffering becomes pain when, you know, that friction is associated with pain. Because for some people, the same friction you're going through is going to be pleasurable for them, you know.
Or maybe
So
not painful, maybe not pleasurable, but maybe just nothing. You know.
I mean, even well, sometimes pleasurable for real. I mean, just think about like S&M stuff. Like
Yeah.
some people enjoy the physical pain, but even the emotional pain, uh, egoically, and some people, their ego is programmed to think that certain kinds of pain are desirable.
Yeah.
So it's not a pleasure as like you're experiencing joy, but it's pleasure in the sense that things feel right when you're, you know.
Like victimhood nowadays, in a way. I mean, it seems like that's what's happening. There's
That's
there's
yeah,
an identity thing that it feels comfortable to blame other people for stuff.
absolutely, yeah. So it's, yeah, I mean, opinions are we think we have opinions usually, but if you really look at them, they're just history built up, you know.
Yeah.
So
Darren, did you have any questions at all? Or?
Well, I never really, I haven't read the book. I listened to bits of it, but I haven't got the whole package yet. But I suppose I should. Right down into it. I do like the Napoleon Hill stuff. I do have some. You mentioned Rumi. Didn't that guy turn out to be like some weird sort of cult scam thing? Like, isn't there like a whole like weird backstory behind Rumi?
oh, I don't know. I've never heard about that. I
No,
know there's
I think you're thinking of Osho behind me here, probably, Darren. Is that
Oh,
book
is it
there?
Osho? Is Osho
Yeah.
the guy that had all the
oh
bugs?
yeah, that's
and
another
That
thing.
book
the-
there is Osho, yeah.
That's
Right.
another thing, but I
When we
mean,
went to Magic on the Mountain, that house had like every one of his books.
Which one, Osho or?
Yeah. That house, like, up on the hill. So I thought there was something about the Rumi guy too. No, is he legit then? Everything's okay there?
I'm not sure.
I mean, it's been I think it's when was Rumi alive? I think it was so long ago that it's one of those situations that some people think he might maybe have not existed, like Jesus or something. No, I think I think most people think he really did exist, but you know.
So Osho is the culty one.
Well,
September 30th, 1207, Bach, now in Afghanistan. He died in 1273 in what is now Turkey. The greatest Sufic mystic and poet in the Persian language, famous
Yeah.
for his lyric and didactic epic. Okay, so what about Osho? What's this? Is Osho the piece of shit then?
well, no, I mean, it all depends on your, you know, like I
Oh yeah, it is Osho.
yeah,
Yeah, that's different.
and he's more modern, right? He's a modern.
Yeah. He had
yeah,
Rolls Royce
some sort of weird
collection.
culty scam going on there.
I used to do meditations with a guy from India who was an Osho guy. They were great meditations. They really were ecstatic dance and gibberish meditations and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
You know the it's the guy that did the Netflix thing on Wild Wild Country, on him and the whole community, and I was happy that they it was very two-sided the way they did it, because you know, like I don't know, like when I was 17, 18, my mom was really into like a lot of new agey stuff, and I got into that, you know, and so I did some, you know,
Some
trance
culty
dancing. Well, not really. It's things that could be viewed like that, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
from the outside, but it's because I mean it's pretty wild what people are doing in these things. But I did that, and it teach me a lot. It teach me a lot. I haven't been the place I was going to back then. Like I haven't been there for over 20 years. But I remember though the lady who founded the place. She's called Annie Marquier. She was a French. She passed away some years ago. And she had a book like The Power to Choose. I don't know how it's translated it's in English and in Spanish and stuff like that. And it was actually like one of Oprah's book club thing for a little while. So I mean, people liked it. And it was kind of inspiring for me in a way, because after all the years, you know, like I understood how complex what she was teaching was, you know, like it wasn't new agey stuff. And she really acted in a way that like she didn't want people to think she was an authority or a guru, but people do it. They will do it. They will no, you are my guru, you know. And there was nothing she could really do against that. She just was very, very private and just tried, anyways. But after you know, some years, I realized like, okay, she was teaching about Jung. She was in teaching and openly inspired by Jung, by Rudolf Steiner, maybe not maybe also Alice Bailey, and you know, like theosophy, and it's pretty deep stuff, you know. But she had this way of making it as accessible, and how did she do that? Is through exercises and lived experience, you know, kind of a Gurdjieff kind of thing too, you know.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So to me, like it was kind of a something I wanted to do with the book. Also, is suggest very complex ideas, but in a way that is more felt, that people can feel it rather than just yeah, grasp it mentally, or you know.
What's your opinion on panpsychism? From the chats, Oswald Spengler.
Oh, I'm gonna be. I don't have a good answer. I don't know that much about it. I've heard that it's. Some people say it's. How do they say it?
Well,
Like not.
pansexual is like falling in love with like trees and shit. So, is panpsychism like?
Yeah, but it's still very materialistic in a way. You know, like it's the. You know, like it's the scientist's animism.
Oh,
But maybe, you know, like that's what I heard, you know, like I don't know that much about that. I'm more interested in things that I can experience myself. I'm not really into like even the term mysticism. I try not to use it, although I talk about the mystic path, because for me, like mysticism stops being mysticism when it falls into an ism, you know.
Panpsychism for people wondering, is the view that all things have a mind or mind-like quality.
Yeah.
Remember we had someone on who said like eventually they're gonna make an iPhone that's just automatically becomes sentient just because you know, that'd be like the high end of pan. So is a robot like a psych whatever the fuck panpsychism? Is there like a data from Star Trek is a panpsychism thing?
I don't know, man. I mean, it's
My light
based on this idea that consciousness pervades everything.
Because who wants to be a
Which
coffee cup, man? That sounds like shit,
to be a coffee cup.
right? I mean, if that's
it's a,
the argument, then someone has to be Graham's microphone.
Well, I mean, the coffee cup and the microphone, at least they both get to touch my lips.
You're saying that like that's like people are
Your
vibing.
lips and the microphone are one, and
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Mine, bro.
So what's the difference?
Show.
What's the difference between the mystic path and, you know, like a religious path or a magic path or a spiritualist path?
Well, I mean, the mystic's path is essentially formless. That's what was so hard about writing that book, because uh, I'm trying to convey the idea that there's nothing essentially, in essence, that is true to base your own identity and your actions on, you know. But then the ego is built of following like archetypes. So that's why like the Napoleon Hill stuff works very well for some people, and for some others, it's not how they're built. It's not going to work, you know. So yeah, I mean, I kind of lost
archetypes because of the archetypes. No, I was asking about the mystic path, but
yeah.
But going back into the Napoleon Hill stuff, I mean, this is kind of what I wanted to ask about new thought, and I don't know if this is even. I hate to put caveats before my questions, but I haven't really figured out how to ask it. But what got me thinking about this new thought stuff is I feel like these guys lived in the early 20s, late 1800s, when it was quite a magical time. You know, it was before it was during materialism's kind of takeover, but it was also at a time when I felt like the Western civilization felt like they could manifest whatever they want. Like it wasn't really. I know they went through the Depression and the World War and stuff, but I don't. I feel like they weren't under the direct thumb of like, let's get rid of the middle class kind of thing, or let's like make everybody poor and the elites get richer. Like I feel like New Thought had an opportunity back then that maybe nowadays we really don't have the same opportunity. Like, does that make sense to you at all? Like, especially with your book sort of connected to that, like in this day and age, what if those books came out in this day and age? I mean, I just don't know if people would have the same ability to manifest.
I mean,
our subconscious thoughts are just filled with doom scrolling and all that. I mean, look at how like even people that want to do it or intend to do it properly or intend to disassociate with the black pilling. It's still hard because we're still having navigate that sort of subconscious brainwashing, really. But then was there in the early 1900s.
Well, it's hard for me to tell how was life back then, but for sure there's some we have challenges right now that are that can seem very demoralizing. That's why, like, for me, like, you were asking like what exactly is the mystic's path. For me, it comes before a manifestation, actually, you know, like because that's the question, the essential question: who am I? What am I? You know, what, or rather, who am I? Knowing yourself, you know, like I'm gonna get a bit, maybe a bit Buddhist here or something, but the thing is, it's hard, when you really get to the crux of it, and I'm gonna relate to what you were saying. There's what's really essential about us can't really be put into words, and whatever like triggers the emotions that we feel, like for example, trying to digest the black pill. They're also, some people are not going to like this, but it's your ego, and not ego in the sense of the bad part of you. ego in a sense that it's the mechanical part of you that just tries to keep yourself alive. It's basically that. And it gets really complex, but in fact it's really simple. So the idea, the mystic's path to me means the ability to step out and just see, like, okay, let's look at that guy, Dominic there, like sitting, and he's talking on this podcast right now. And why is he doing that? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Or how does he feel? How did he get there? Like this ability to look at yourself without, like identifying with yourself. That's the essence of the mystic's path. And then comes, like all the crazy shit that's happening, and how you deal with it and how you interpret it. And you're still, to me, like, you're still going to have opinions and you're still going to have fears, but I mean, just knowing what they are is kind of half the, like I've that's another reason I thought like it might be a good time to put out this book is, man, I know I'm not alone like that in that situation, but for me, like COVID and all that stuff, I mean, my life never has been so good, I maybe it's an archetypal kind of thing, but I thrive in chaos very easily, So, and maybe it's because I've developed this ability to step out, step out of the fights and all the the bickering and the the violence actually, and just look at it like as if you were an alien, basically,
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I was getting at earlier is when I was talking about before or after. I think that's what I was thinking about when I was reading that Master Key book and thinking about your book is that, yeah, once you can kind of get that self-knowledge, that helps you clear out all the crap in a way and get rid of all that subconscious kind of noise and then figure out really what you want. I guess one of my main thoughts was like it felt simpler in the early 1900s. Like I want to manifest a good job and a family, and I could sort of maybe afford that. Like I want to have a job I love and I can afford a family and a house. Like nowadays, yeah, I want to have a job I love, but can I afford a fucking house and a family? Like it just feels like there's other, things in the way of all this.
Yeah. Um, but that's the thing. Like, I mean, how do you know you wanted a good job in a house? It seems obvious.
Yeah.
Like, well, of course, But
well, I didn't for the longest time, right? And now, so that's an interesting point. My desires have changed so much over even just for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
I used to love the city, and I used to love being sort of having the city as your backyard, and now I just want to be out in the middle of nowhere in a house.
But well, I mean, that's another thing with manifestation is also like, when is it that we just open up to surprises? Because we automatically, like, we tend to think that surprises are going to be bad, That's not how it works, Things happen, and then you
react or respond.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, I mean, I told that story. Yeah, I should talk about that. I don't know if it's in the book, the story about the Chinese farmer, say Wang. I'm not pronouncing it. Okay. So about the, I don't know if you remember that. It's a classic story. Like I've even seen it in TV shows and stuff like that. Like
Yeah, that's the point. That's the point of all this almost. And that's the point of the knowing of the master key. I think it's going to point to that, is doing all these exercises to enable you to look at a situation like that and not really judge it as immediately negative. There's opportunity. Napoleon talks about that too, and Outwitting the Devil and Think and Grow Rich, is like it's all about failure and opportunities from failure and sort of how you kind of pick yourself up as opposed to, how you fall down.
Mm-hmm.
So that can you tell the story without, or do you want me to find it and read it, or?
Oh, I can tell it. You'll get the gist of it. It's so there's this old farmer, and I think he's got a horse, like a really nice horse. And then one day the horse leaves. So everybody, like his neighbors, they say, "Oh, how bad it is! Like how unlucky you are." And he says, "I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, you know." So then the next day, the horse comes back, but he's got another horse with him, like a very strong stallion, you know. So everybody's like, wow, how cool, you know, like you got this beautiful stallion. And he's like, I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. A week after that, his son, who was his only son, who helped him on the farm, decides to ride the stallion. And the stallion is wild, you know, so he's got trouble, like keeping it calm, and he falls from the horse and breaks his leg. Again, people say, wow, that's how are you gonna do your farming, you know, like you're with your son like that? That's such a bad thing. And again, he said, I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. And then a couple of days after that, there's a war that's declared with the next city or whatever. And because of that, the son can't go to war. So all the young men were killed, but his son was spared, you know. So what do you do with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because again, like the logic thing after that is, how do you know if it's a good or a bad thing?
Yeah.
But that used to drive me crazy, you know, because if there's nothing essentially good or bad because you don't know what's going to happen next, how do you decide on anything? But there's also like a calming way to see it, is whatever you do, like things are going to be good or bad. So just do whatever you want to do, you know? But then you have to decide. So, oh, I have a little cat there. So you have to decide on things and do things, and especially if you want to do things that take a long time to do, you have to keep at it. So, but how do you know if it's a good or a bad thing, you know? So there's a paradox there, and my own experience says that, to me, this is where you want to be. You want to inhabit that paradox. So manifesting, well, if you feel like it, you know, like there's the part about Mitch Horowitz. Have you ever had him on the show?
No, we haven't. I don't think.
Oh, okay. I was just curious. So there's a part about him on the book, well, about something he said some years ago back at the warehouse. He said he was struggling with, I can't remember. I wrote in the book, but there was 2 points of view, like Neville Goddard that said, my will be done, and then someone else, which I can't remember the name, and I wrote to him to ask him because I couldn't remember, who said, "Thy will be done." Like basically just surrender to the will of God and just do whatever God wants you to do. But the other one said, "My will be done." So my will is sacred, basically. So I should just follow my will. So I struggled with that for a long time. And I mean, I have admiration for Mitch Horowitz. I thought, you know, like, and also like he's got the, as they say, the proof is in the pudding. And, you know, like, I mean, he's very prolific, very successful, very eloquent, very impressive to me. He's a very impressive person, you know. So I thought he's probably got something right that I don't understand. I just can't grasp it. And so I struggled with the same question. He said that he also did that, and he ended up on the "my will be done" part of the thing, you know. But to me, like I really tried, but I couldn't really equate that internally. I don't know if I'm clear.
Yeah.
I couldn't make sense in my lived experience because of that thing that I was talking about earlier, about always losing that drive. And then there was that Rumi thing, you know, the voice, which is basically the voice of God, or usually I say nature with a big N, you know. But it's okay. I'm not afraid of the word God. So I realized and I discovered for myself that there's no separation between that, thy and my, you know. Like when I'm really, really seeing myself clearly, deeply, and I see through all the egoic things, the little voices that argue, you know, basically whatever feels the best to me to do and whatever I feel energy to do, it's just natural. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to manifest things. I don't have to do exercises to manifest the things I want to do. But also the things I want to do, like they're very different from most people. I'm more interested in the deeper aspects of my actions than their outside result, you know. So I prefer being homeless and very, very true to myself than have a very nice house that I've had to prostitute myself to get, you know. I'm giving extreme examples there, and there's nothing bad with wanting. Actually, I'd like to have a house.
No, it's good. No, but I appreciate that. I appreciate that more. You know, that's good.
Mhm.
And I feel like the people get connected to the source, whatever you want to call it, God, the source, these downloads, the infinite, the Napoleon calls it what, the inner self or the outer self or some sort of higher self. I mean, maybe that's that combination there of my and thy. You know, if you're, as long as your ego's kind of out of the way a little bit, maybe that's, you know, it is the same.
Well, that's where it feels right to me, you know, like writing the book, like if you knew me, like if you had known me for years, like it's very improbable that I would not only write a book, but everything that because the book for me was it was just the basis of the work that I wanted to do afterwards, you know. And so and I keep at it, like I'm in a situation right now, not maybe not for long, I don't know, where I can devote myself full time to what I'm doing. But so I'm really working hard to get things going, because I'd prefer not to go back to the warehouse and tape boxes. But like if I get there, I'll get there. But so the amount of energy that I have right now, it's unprecedented. Like it makes no sense that I would have this energy. So, and for me, like the manifestation, the magic, the new thought, the abundance and wealth, it didn't work. It didn't work. And there's so many people, like of course it's the doers that have a voice, and they say like, oh, if you want to manifest, you do this and you do that, because it comes naturally to them. Like, and I'm not saying, by the way, like, just to make it clear, I'm not saying Mitch Horowitz is wrong to have settled on my will be done. I'm saying from my archetypal structure, my personality, my ego, my vehicle, I'm not built like that. That's not how I get my fuel. I get my fuel from the
deeper meaning.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the part that can't be put into words. You just know it.
Yeah. Darren, do you have any questions?
Well, I do have one question. Where can people get the book? Where can people get Zinfaendel? Obviously, the audiobook's going to be, I guess, on the Adult Brain audiobook podcast for a little bit. Is that what we're saying?
Let's do that. We'll put it'll be free it'll be on the Adult Brain audiobook podcast on the free podcast feed. And then by the time this comes out in audio, I mean, it's not going to be long. It's going to be out in a few days. So it's going to come out on Audible probably, and also everywhere else audiobooks are sold, but we just don't know exactly when. So
yeah, it's going to be,
apologize for all that problem with audio. I mean, we just had, what's funny is we just worked on your book and got it out there, and then Audible.
Yeah.
And then we got shut down. I was like, you're sort of like one of the first real kind of like customers in a way, or like we had, like a special deal there on that. And then it all fell apart. So interesting timing. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not going to say whether it's good or bad, because like we already went through this. We already went through this whole thing. Darren and I are like, let's just make this work, and we'll figure it out. And I have a sense it's going to be better than it was before, the way we're going. But because now we've got the audiobook podcast there, and people can find all like hundreds of books on there and download them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it should be on Amazon, on Audible eventually, but it's cool that people go to you guys to get it. But it's also like, so it's also available, of course, in digital and
where's
paper. Well, it's on Amazon, but if people want a digital copy, though, they can write to me directly. So that's even better. But it sounds also on Kindle, and also I should say that it's also in French. I always forget to say it, because I wrote it in French initially, and then I translated it. So just if people want to get it, of course they can just go to Amazon and search for it. But maybe the easiest way is just go to my website, dominicvallee.com/book, or just go in the menu, you see book, and everything's there. So right now the audiobook there's no link for the audiobook on the website, but as soon as there's one, we'll add it.
Yeah, exactly. And they can go to Adult Brain audiobooks probably tomorrow or the day after. It'll be out there on the podcast. And what about your new podcast too? We should talk about that before you forget, because I don't think you've been able to publicly announce that yet, have you?
I have not. I mean, it's I have a podcast called Hopscotch Chronicles. You can see the website at hopscotchchronicles.com. For now, there's only 2 episodes, and they're just basically essays that I wrote, and then I thought, well, like I'm just going to read them and turn them into audio. But I realized that, this kind of conversation, this type of conversations we're having right now, it's never enough for me. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try to talk to some people too.
So so what's your plan with the podcast? And you're going to do your own like solo stuff and have interviews too?
Yeah, once in a while, just maybe a solo show, maybe just reading some essays that I wrote. But yeah, so I want to get to talk with, of course, people in, like spirituality and philosophy and stuff like that, but also like musicians, artists, and talk about these kind of things. Sometimes it's harder for artists to talk about those really deep subjects because it's very instinctive for them. Instinctual, is that a word?
Yeah, instinctual. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So just putting it into words is kind of hard for them, but and yeah, I mean, there's a list of people I really want to talk to.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, good.
Yeah,
Right on.
for
Well,
sure. Like I'm gonna try to talk with. Maybe I shouldn't say it. I haven't asked.
Yeah. What, Gordon White?
Well, oh, that would be cool. That would be cool for sure. Mitch. Yeah, for sure, Miguel. But also like some musicians. I'd really like to talk with Ian Mackay from Minor Threat, Fugazi. That guy, like he's a deeply spiritual guy. Yeah. From my definition of spirituality, I don't think he says that. He thinks that, but I don't know. But
because were you a punk rock, heavy metal kind of guy or musician?
Yeah, basically. And that's where it's funny because I saw you titled the video punk mysticism.
Oh yeah,
and we haven't talked about that.
Yeah. Well,
but it's
again sometime. But yeah, I know you've got a punk aspect of it in your book. So
yeah. I mean, to me, that's essentially that. Like the DIY spirit within spirituality is super important. Whether even if you're gonna become a monk or whatever, just start with yourself and just start with what you can do by yourself, and then build on that. And maybe it's gonna take you somewhere in some very old tradition or something, but maybe not. But the important thing is it's going to be true, and that's the essence of punk also, I think. It's that rawness, that it just has to feel real.
Yeah, I like it. That's your DIY spirituality plan. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's the second book. I don't know.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, buddy. This is good.
It was really cool. Thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah. We'll be in touch.
Thank you, sir. Come back again. Thanks for letting us do your book, and thanks for coming on the show. This has been great, Dominic.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Good luck over in Quebec. We'll just be smiling at you from Alberta. I mean, Graham's in Saskatchewan now, so I don't know what to say about that, but
it's not that bad here.
It's probably yet.
All
right,
yeah.
Good luck. Have a great night.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
And now is our chat with Dominic, no relation to Jacques Vallee. What'd you think, buddy?
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, that was good.
That was fun. Yeah, it was good. Yeah. Of course, get the book on adultbrain.ca, the Adult Brain Audiobooks podcast. It should be right there at the top when you click in after this episode comes out. Of course, if you're listening live, forget it, because it won't be there till like Monday or Tuesday next week. Could be Tuesday because it's a long weekend here. It's Easter. Or no, not Easter. What the fuck? Which it's Thanksgiving. Are you having a family thing out there?
I don't know.
Big old first family back in
I don't know.
Saskatchewan. I wonder what a
I didn't even
Saskatchewan
know it's a long
Thanksgiving
weekend.
dinner
Man.
looks like.
Yeah. So
You didn't know it's Thanksgiving?
no.
You can get turkey?
No, I don't know. I mean, this is my first. I don't know. Just trying to get settled and get to work, and that's all.
Maybe you can get a couple pre-cooked like chickens.
Yeah.
Big thanks to Dominic for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening. Even bigger thanks if you're some of the people who are supporting the show over at grimerica.ca/support. We can't do without you. Sign up today for a monthly or one-time donation at grimerica.ca/support. $1 a month, $2 a month. You decide. And you can also check out our other podcast, Grimerica Outlawed, and the audiobook one, like we're talking about, Adult Brain Audiobooks, the podcast. Contact at the cabin for the trips. We've got that great Canadian adventure coming up very quickly. There are a few spots left. Sign up today. Contact at thecabin.com. Spam Graham at grimerica.com. Other than that, we love you guys. Thanks for listening. And we will see you next week.